Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Just Women Talking Shit with your host, Jacqueline Cotton. Jacqueline Cotton.
A lot of the times it is like, okay, let's look in ourselves. Like, what is like my favorite question to ask, like this realm of curiosity is, what's familiar about this situation? Like, is it, what's familiar about this that's activating me? Where do I feel it in my body? I think it's really interesting, like when we feel things in our throat. It's like I wasn't able to say something or I want to say something and I can't, or fear of like being judged, or um, I was crying out and I wanted to say something and I wasn't heard or I'm not seen. It's the heart space. It's like all that love, but it's all pain, And so it's like, what is familiar about this? And I always have clients ask, like, in any situation that's coming up, like, so this happened at work or this happened when so and so said this. Well, it's familiar about that, and we process it and we go down this curious rabbit hole of compassionate, curiosity and just asking, like, what are those unexpressed wounds, unexpressed parts of ourselves that couldn't quite feel like it could be out in the open, or it's exiled away in this castle so far away and then something triggered it, and protectors within our body is like, oh no, you're getting close, let's cover it up and blame this person, or like we're gonna show up in this like judgment, it's about them, it's not about us, but really sometimes it's kind of like the other way around too, and that's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Just Women Talking Shit with your host, Jacqueline Cotton. Jacqueline Cotton.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
Jack.
Ruth. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Oh,
And it's such a sunny day where you are. And oh, your little dog.
Yeah. This is where I like spend all my time. I have some patio furniture and I live in Mississippi, so it like
Yeah.
even on a cold day, if I just bring like a heated blanket out, I'm good to
Oh,
go.
that's perfect.
I'm good.
That is perfect. What's your dog's name?
Her name is Shyla. Come here.
Shyla.
Shyla.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
cute.
She's my little emotional support animal for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that she just popped up right when we started.
Right? She's like,
Knows
"Oh,
the drill.
let me get my clothes." Yeah. She
Yeah.
knows. She likes the attention for sure. Well, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm excited for this. I also appreciate like, yeah, the scheduling thing. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I think because we wanted to do this like in November.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a tough month. There was a lot happening in November.
I
I'm
so
sure
feel
everyone knows.
I so feel that. Ugh, that
Yeah.
felt awkwardly good. Okay,
Awkwardly
stop.
good.
Oh, you know what it is? You know what it is? It's lotion. She's now
Oh,
yeah, I'm like, why are we being so
oh, so
affectionate today?
affectionate. Yeah.
You smell like food. Oh yeah. So well, maybe that's a good starting point for us because I was reading the notes and you're an LPC. You help
hmm
people with wellness. I'm willing to bet mental health, all those things, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a psychotherapist, so licensed professional counselor, LPC, here in Oregon. And yeah, so I mainly specialize in working with folks who have trauma history, developmental trauma, some emotional injuries, depression, anxiety is kind of like something that comes with it. So that comes up a lot too, relationship, communication, boundaries, all that good stuff that comes with having some trauma and how the body stores all of that. So a lot of the work that I do is online, sometimes in person. And
Mhm.
Yeah. So I also have workshops. I host workshops around inner child work, parts work, somatic healing, anxiety, and also breath work and sound bath facilitator as well. So um,
Okay.
yeah, so a couple things there, but like the modality is really just
Yeah.
a holistic approach to mental health and wellness, decolonizing it as much as I can
Yeah.
and, tending to the body, especially when it comes to complex trauma survivors, because I think a lot of it is like head heavy. And
Mhm.
so, bottom up approaches, and it's kind of getting, pretty popular now, but it's just such a different way of working with people, and working with the body first. Yeah.
So, so you mentioned the complexity of so CPTSD. I didn't know what that
Mhm.
was until I started on my own mental health
Mm,
journey. And, so I don't know how much you know about me. But my story is childhood neglect, left alone a lot, had to essentially raise my siblings. So domestic violence, lots of drug abuse around me, well, that is domestic violence, but physical abuse, just
yeah.
not a fostering environment for, a young, fragile mind. And so, uh,
Yeah.
to this day, like this morning, even now, I have my good days. I'm still trying to figure out what is prompting those good days.
Mhm.
But whenever I was trying to figure out, so let's say, like, I remember in 2019, um, in 2019, I remember waking up one morning and I thought I was going to die because I didn't know at the time, my anxiety was so bad that it was making my heart feel as if I was like, it was going too fast,
Yeah.
like too fast almost.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then, I was physically vomiting. My body was showing me like, and so anyway, this has been going on for several years of my life and I still deal with this. So
Mm,
I started trying to figure it out and I noticed that the times I get the most anxious or is like right before bed, I don't want to go to bed. It's almost like I'm missing out on something or I'm afraid to sleep because I don't enjoy sleep. My dreams are very vivid. I revisit a lot of like childhood memories and things that I guess probably um some of those core memories, some of that core trauma probably. And I
yeah.
revisit that. I still revisit houses and I have super lucid dreams. But the worst is waking up. And the way I describe it to people and the way I've described it to my husband, and we're figuring it out throughout the years, is that it makes sense. It makes sense, Jacqueline. One, you were a kid that was supposed to be getting sleep and going to school, and you're like raising babies and staying up all night, wondering where your parents are. And then when you wake up, either you're getting yelled at, or there's a screaming child that you're worried about protecting, or like there are
Mm,
people in your house that shouldn't be there rummaging through things. And it's like,
yeah.
no fucking wonder. So to this day, 35 years old, Ruth, I still wake up. I woke up this morning and my husband knows I just go into fetal position and I hum and it's just,
Yeah.
so with that being said, that's how I found out about complex.
Yeah.
And so you were
Hmm.
saying that November was a really hard month. If you want to share that, go for it. Or there was a lot going on, but what I find is that for some of us who have CPTSD, who have had really rough like upbringings, it's really hard that time of the year. Like
Yeah.
holidays,
Yeah.
it wasn't until my 30s that it wasn't until I had a child of my own, I think, that I started enjoying the holiday
Hmm.
because ultimately, at least what I've found with my clients is that those who have the CPTSD, holidays are kind of a trigger because they didn't feel loved. They felt alone.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything that I just dumped on you.
Yeah, no, no, not at all. It's not a dumping. Like this is yeah, this I actually relate a lot to you and your story. And we're the same age too and just like around 2019, which I was already working at that time too, but I noticed like a complete burnout and I noticed a lot of the symptoms that I thought were, dealt with. I think I did my work. I'm ready to go out in the world and stuff. And that is when it showed up for me the most, right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic in its own was just a nightmare. I forgot to mention, I started out as a school counselor. And so, interestingly enough, school was a triggering environment. And as an elementary school counselor, I am, talking with these precious children and working with teachers and the parents and going in classrooms. And I didn't know it. My conscious awareness didn't know what was happening, but my body, it was like in alarm state almost all the time. And it did get worse and worse. And when the pandemic hit, and I was starting to work virtually and deliver these social emotional lessons, that is when I felt better, because I'm virtual and I'm not in the school, but I'm still working with the same kids. And it was pretty jarring, like, to know how much the body stores, how much is really hidden in the subconscious, and how disconnected our body can be with, our thinking brain, and like you were talking about going to bed. And that's a very common thing, like in my experience as well, and like clients that I see, going to bed, our most vulnerable state, right? Like, we are supposed to be out for several hours, but if our bodies are still in this fight flight, and because of the stored, whatever it may be, the pain, the trauma, the memories, it's not going to want to rest. And there's a lot of repatterning that needs to happen in a loving, compassionate way. And man, is it hard. And I know you know that too. Like, it is hard work. It's always ongoing too. It doesn't really stop. The amazing piece of CPTSD, I think there are many, to be honest, but one thing that I really hold dear to my heart is that a lot of this is rewirable, if that makes sense. It doesn't quite feel like we're ever going to get close to that point, but these small changes of building safety, like you're talking about, like your husband just like holding you when you're having the high symptoms, right? Like waking up, or whenever it is, like those elements of safety sprinkled throughout our day can really do so much to the nervous system as it repatterns and it creates safety in the body, and hopefully connects the parts that are in this busy thinking, managing, protecting role. And then the body wanting to just shut things down or freeze up or yell or scream, kind of working together. And so, yeah, it's something that can, post-traumatic growth, if you've ever heard that, is such an amazing thing. There's studies out there that show that, I can't remember where the study is from, but several studies that show that people who have suffered from PTSD, complex PTSD, and then have treatment plans, depending on, I don't know, like what they are, but mostly body-centered treatment plans, can live happy, successful lives, and actually even more successful than those who didn't even experience the traumas, compared to our peers who didn't have, these type of developmental traumas growing up. So it's pretty fascinating. It's different from any other mental health disorder, but or like personality disorders, things like that. But yeah, that's something that I, really hold dear to my heart in my own journey. But yeah, I can go on about like some specific stories too if you want, but I want to pause here for a sec. But man, like I just want to say, Jacqueline, I relate a lot to your story, like a lot. Yeah.
It's really weird how so is how hard it is to share your story in the beginning, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think just hearing you say something like I relate to that is so, in a sense, gratifying, because I have, as a person, you feel alone for a long time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so anyway, Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making this happen. Like, I think I saw you on Instagram around the time that I was doing like a rage event, sacred rage event.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. And I saw some of your posts and I was like, this is like, I don't know, the algorithm is algorithming. I love it.
Can I tell you what it was?
Yeah.
So earlier this year, she's become like one of my best friends, and I finally get to meet her in January in Chicago. But my best friend, who is also my business coach, she really got me on track this year. And she was like, Jacqueline, what's your next goal with the podcast? And me, I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. All that trauma, like, wait,
Mm.
always gotta go. Don't know. You can't hold me down.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but she got me in shape, and she was like, let's get an outline together and let's start like making sense of these episodes and getting some professionals on. And it, I think it was just a God thing, Ruth, because I didn't know who you were. What I did is I went through and I made an outline in my spreadsheets. And I'll be honest, I used a little chat GPT and I was like, help me form the perfect podcast schedule to 100 episodes. And I want it to involve trauma. I gave it all these things I wanted it to be. And I wanted to map out my episodes to the 100th episode. So you're part of that, by the way. It's like,
Oh,
yes, so
that's
huge.
so special. That's so special.
Right.
Wow.
And so she was getting me familiar with, she was like, get in there, get an Instagram and find some people and just see who you're drawn to. And so ChatGPT was like, let's get you a therapist or a licensed professional or something like that. And I was like, that sounds so good. Because I talk about this stuff all the time, but I'm trying to like go Mel Robbins big and
Yes.
get some really amazing, inspiring wizards on here like yourself that are just so intelligent and in your zone of genius. And so anyway, I just trusted and I said, okay, let's go and let's look. And I was looking up therapy and holistic wellness, and I found you. And I literally went in my little spreadsheet and I went, this is my first choice. I don't even think I had a second choice. I was just gravitated towards you. And I wrote you, and so it was basically like, I'm going to be, my audience knows, I felt like a little, I will say a wussy with a P. We'll say that. Well, I'm glad you that message. A wussy with a P. Okay. Just in case there are kids nearby listening. Like you said, it's a beautiful day. They could be like,
right around the corner.
Yep. Gotta be careful. Don't want to cause them any trauma. But no, you were on my list, and I reached out, and I think you pretty much were like, thank you for your interest. I need to go listen to this to see if it's aligned. And then you did, and you came back and you're like, okay, I kind of love you.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I'm totally for it. Yep. Yeah.
And that's how so it's just kismet. It's the little breadcrumbs that we were supposed to find, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
I believe that. It's really cool. I think, so I'm assuming you're, spiritual kind of, right?
How'd you get?
That is like such a huge part in this work, in this healing, in our own personal journeys. Connection to earth, Mother Nature, timing, if we're connected to numbers, synchronicities, things like that usually is a huge indicator to help me know that I'm on the right path, and I have so many different practices. Sometimes it's faith-based, most times it's not at all. And I think people sometimes get confused, spirituality and, faith and things like that too. But I think for people on their healing journeys, like, it is so important to have rituals and techniques that help you align with, like, things that maybe like energy that you can't quite see, but and you can feel. And that's going to involve other people in your path as teachers, as helpers, as influencers, as people that actually kind of, even do the harm too, to like, help you, not that you have to learn from the harm, like in that way, but kind of help you evolve and grow so you can work towards that post-traumatic growth. That's like maybe another episode. Cause I see my brain kind of going into this, like that dimension there. And I want to be careful.
I love that so much though, because
Yeah.
we call it squirrel brain or shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
I go off on tangents and it's so funny. I love it. I love it
Yeah.
though. Well, so
Yeah.
you said something and I want to bring it back
Yeah. Sure.
because I'm curious about it. It's so interesting. You said something about you were talking about like the PTSD and CPTSD recovery process and
Mhm.
how once with the right, we'll say treatment, or yeah, we'll just say treatment,
Mhm.
that you can go on to be way more successful than the average person who has had what I would say is like a normal life.
Yeah.
A kind of a sheltered life is
Yeah.
what my brain sees it as because I was out there like struggling.
Yeah.
So in my mind, like with my own kids too. So quick backtrack. I have a daughter. Um, she's going on 12. And then I have a son with my husband now. Um, and he has 3 boys from his previous marriage. So we've got a big family, big blended family, and it's been
Nice.
really
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really interesting to navigate too though. Like it's a lot of feelings that come out and I've learned a lot about myself like that I do. And you mentioned something about being in the
Mhm.
school being triggered. I didn't realize how triggered I would be by my husband's kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's
Did
really rough.
did you have
Um,
siblings?
yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, you said you were the caretaker. Yeah.
I was the
Same.
oldest of 6.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I think I'd get mad at my siblings a lot too. And it was more of the because I was pushed into the mother role and I think
Yeah.
what it is I feel like as a child I knew my place. Like I knew my place, right? I knew what I was supposed to do, what I wasn't supposed to do. I was on guard. I had to like I call it transform for whoever came into the room. How do I transform for
Yeah.
them?
Mhm.
So I think that a lot of the trauma started coming out as a stepmom because there's so many boundaries there. But what I'm seeing and what's interesting is you said you were triggered by it being in the school. You're doing a lot better by doing the virtual thing.
Mhm.
I'm very much the same. The thought of going back to like having to work in person really freaks me out. I host a
Mhm.
retreat once a year.
Yeah.
I do VIP days. I am really, I guess, budgeting my energy and whatnot. But
Yeah.
what I find so interesting is the point that you made that with the right love and nurture process after having PTSD or CPTSD, that you go on to live such a productive life, which is, I say every single day. It fucking sucks what I had
Yeah.
to go through. Would I
Mhm.
trade it now?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
yeah, like really, because I find myself, and it's not that I'm insensitive, but I think it makes me such a great leader
Yeah.
that having had to go through all that, I've been homeless, I've been a sex
Yeah.
worker, I've
Yeah.
done anything and everything to try to fill that void.
Yeah.
You can't come to me and make excuses anymore. Like I know what people are capable of, and so we're getting to the point. I promise.
You're good. You're
We're
good.
getting there. What is your perspective on all of that? It's
Mhm.
so funny. Like I call it like the preacher's daughter effect. The kids who have it really good and have a sheltered life and have parents that like they have their life kind of planned out for them and like they don't they're first world problems, like
Mm, mhm.
is what I
Mhm.
consider. Not to say that their feelings are inadequate or that they don't feel alone or something like that, but and then I see people who have grown up around addiction or have fallen into addiction, pretty much followed the footsteps, trying to break the generational curses, which I did that too. I became an addict. I became, I just mentioned the webcam and the sex work and all that.
Mhm.
Um, I became an alcoholic. Swore I wouldn't do that. I have been with numerous narcissist men. Swore I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there? Like, why is that? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What is
So
that about?
like Like, what is it about kind of having those same patterns?
Well, it's just like how so it's probably the mom in me and where we're not going to get into politics. I'm not a political person, but where our country is at as a whole,
Yeah.
I just look and I'm like, how is it that we have it so good in today's society and yet people are still creating problems? And but so like the people who I would expect to be doing well and not be so entitled are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the people who have, I mean, fucking had absolutely nothing are like the ones out there killing it,
Yeah.
trying to help the people who are in their heads and going or like stuck on autopilot in a sense.
Yeah. Like the people without the traumas are
Yeah, there
helping.
you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You're piecing it together. Sorry.
Well, no,
My
that's
brain,
you're good.
yeah,
No,
my
you're
brain.
good. I think about that too. I think about that too. I think about that with the um, children that I worked with in the schools. I think, and their parents, and not to analyze anything like that, but you know, it's not always what it seems. If for lack of a better way, I like to think about reparenting, and I see the tie here. Reparenting as like a combination of gentleness and firmness. And I feel like, if we're gentle, we'll have anxious children. We'll like formulate anxious children. We're firm, we'll develop anxious children. If we have, one parent that's this and then the other parent that's this, it's very confusing. And then it's like, so I wonder, like, with the people that are growing up in a little bit of both, I wonder what will happen after they've, if you think about like the hero's journey, are you familiar with that? Um, like we go through these trials and tribulations, and then we go through this like catalytic situation. We meet our teachers, and then like it sheds certain parts of us to come to light so that we can find like maybe towards self-actualization or something like that. I don't know if this is like connecting to what you're saying about like how people are different. I don't know about like what's going on with that. I mean, maybe if you can clarify a little bit more before I go into that.
Well, so yeah, I
Am
was
I on track with what you're saying?
you are, I was, I don't, okay. You were on point. Trauma versus no trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the people with trauma are going on to after they get through all it, like it's making them stronger people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the one like my goal as a parent is to reduce like have as minimal amount of trauma in my children as possible, right? But I also don't want to produce soft, entitled asshole
Ah,
children.
yes.
So
Yes.
it's like that's probably where
Yeah.
the resentment comes from whenever I see it's not just my stepchildren, it's my children too that are
Yeah.
acting entitled, but it's like, but
Mm,
like you wanted your children to have the best life. And so it's like a double-edged sword. Like I'm a
yeah.
worried we're raising pricks.
Ah, okay.
But at the
Gotcha.
same, but I don't want them to go through a fraction of what I had to go through to be
Oh,
a
yeah.
solid human being. Does that
Yeah.
make more sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I literally was talking about this with a client. She also has CPTSD and wants to have children and is just so worried about, the mother wounds, the ancestral traumas, all the things in the bloodline that she's trying to repattern. And then like very anxious, like if I have kids, like, well, what am I going to do? And then I have other people who already have children and are worried, as they're embarking on, school age, what will happen to them if they're still the parents are still trying to work on um developing a sense of safety in the home and teaching them and preventing all these other things. Honestly, I think going back to safety and the balance between being gentle and loving and compassionate and curious with the other area of firmness, which includes boundaries and discipline consequences that are very reasonable, um, and can instill a lot of responsibility at developmentally healthy, stages, that can do so much. And it sounds like it's a lot, but it's really as simple as developing the safety in the home and within your relationship with them, and then within yourself also as a, I relate to that caretaker part of you as well. And then just, being like a maternal figure in our families as well. So it's a combination of that. But I think we can kind of sometimes feel like we can control everything and all of it. And, they're their own individuals, and we can only do so much. And a lot of it isn't something that, we can even, control over, some influence. And so, yeah, I hope that kind of brings like maybe a different direction to it, or a different perspective to it, in the light of like safety within our own sense of self, and then being curious again with ourselves, our shadow parts, get curious about that, compassionate about that, challenging that as well. So being gentle and firm with ourselves, you know, um, in our experiences to heal emotional pain. And then that can absolutely transcend into the circles that you're in your home, the people you work with, and can relieve some pressure and burden that, as that caretaker, I think it's kind of interesting. We're talking about caretakers, feeling that we need to, control or protect, as much as possible, because we saw so much that we shouldn't have seen, or experienced so much that we shouldn't have experienced. So, yeah, I mean, children are very interesting, right? They're sponges, they could be interesting gems, you know what I mean by gems, and like, but, yeah, it makes sense to relieve a lot of that pressure from ourselves, especially if we've had experiences that felt like we kind of were responsible for someone's whole journey in their life, I know it's precious times, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I find it all very interesting because the word that keeps coming up for you too is safety.
Mm-hmm.
And mm, yeah, no, that all makes sense. It was kind of a kick in the face. Like I had to come out and admit that. Like I didn't realize this, and this is going to make me sound bad, but I really don't give a shit because I think that it's something that a lot of like step parents don't speak on.
Mm-hmm.
It's been very interesting because it's a different kind of love. It's just a different, it's not that I don't love I call them all my kids. They're all my
Yeah.
kids, right? My husband and I have been together, I think 5 years now. So and getting together was like another traumatic event because right around then we lost when I got pregnant. We lost our first baby. My daughter's
Mhm.
dad had just died. It was a whole thing. I was in
Oh,
the middle of a
yeah.
custody battle, all kinds of things. And so finding figuring out how to become a blended family overnight was super interesting because it was just the two of us,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter, myself. And then I get pregnant, and then we get married, and we go from just the two of us to once her brother's born, an overnight family of 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I was so over them. I was like, I found because I'm the oldest of 6, right? I always thought I was going to have this
Yeah.
huge family, and I was going to redo it and do it the right way. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I was faced with this whole new set of challenges. Like, how do I figure out how to show them all that I love them and that I don't see any of them differently? And then what was really interesting for me is when I found myself, and this is the part that I'm like, this is going to sound bad, but I was jealous of my husband's youngest for
Yeah.
probably the first 3 or 4 years
Mm-hmm.
because what I found was that so first off, and I think that some people can probably relate with this, especially if you live down south, but my husband's 9 years older than me. So it's different generations, like the way that we communicate. I like to text. He likes to, call me. Like, I'm going to talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things are different, but like personality wise, he's not emotional. He will go out of his way to show emotion. And then you get his little boy over here and he's cuddling and scratching his back. And I'm just like, and it finally hit me. It finally
Yeah.
hit me. I'm so much like his son. He's like a little grumpy old man. All he wants to
Mhm.
do is like with his
Yeah.
blanket, sit there and watch his programs, right? So
Yeah.
I finally figured out it was my inner child so wounded. And then I didn't have a dad growing up. So here I see my husband who does not show me that kind of affection on her, like unless I ask for it, going out of his way. And how shitty of that is. I felt so shitty. I'm like, but it always took me putting myself in his shoes. Like, that's his fucking look. Like,
Mhm.
what? And I
Mm.
realized so quickly that it was because of all of that I went without as a kid. And now we
Yeah.
are giving our children all that we wanted. And my little girl is like, but what about me? Like,
Yeah.
did all that. And so, what are your maybe
Mhm.
thoughts on, because
Yeah.
these are real problems. These are real
Yeah.
feelings that people have that they're
Mhm.
keeping to themselves, that
Yep.
they,
Yeah.
and what happens is when we don't talk about it, like we will wind up resenting the family we've built. It's really insane.
Yeah.
And I just, we're over that. I've worked through that. And this little dude is like my best friend.
Mm.
And I love my family so much, so freaking much. And it would kill me. I just had a conversation with them the other day, and this may, hopefully this didn't create any trauma, Ruth, but the fighting and the disrespect, and they made mama cry, and I cried in the car,
Yeah.
in the van, and I didn't yell at them, but I cried with compassion. I said, I need you all to please start getting along.
Yeah.
We've got to start getting along. I'm working so hard. And to see you guys not happy when you have everything you need. I'm not saying that your feelings are invalid, but like I had to be real with my oldest because we got two 11s that are about to be 12. We got a 15-year-old. The other two are 6 and 3. But I had to tell them, I'm like, I need you guys to understand like the impact of our family unit, and that
Mhm.
if we can't make it work, they've been through a divorce before. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm worried that um ugh, I don't want a wedge to come between us, and I don't want to lose my family again. But the
Yeah.
older they get, I notice that they kind of pit us against each other.
Mm.
You've
Oh.
got you've got, his ex-wife, and they've got their family, and then you've got us over here, and it's just, and then so it's like it's not like unrealistic to say that we could get divorced one day because it's just not working out. The blend is not blending.
Blend.
So
Yeah.
what is your perspective on that? Because I know this is a
Yeah.
real life problem, and people stay in
Yeah.
relationships trying to make it work. But like, what's your perspective there? Any tips, any tricks on how to, for the blended people out there?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for naming that because you're right. Like, I don't think a lot of people do talk
We're not.
about some,
Mm-mm,
yeah,
it's
we're not
tough.
talking about that. Yeah, the intricate aspects of blended families and with littles. And then on top of that, um, our own complex or developmental inner child wounds, right? Those wounds coming up. And then we've got these littles that are around the same age where we had a completely different kind of life and we're feeling like we're doing so much for them. And it doesn't feel like it's maybe appreciative, or it doesn't feel like they're even like getting along. It doesn't feel like they're doing anything to like make some like be part of the family that is like cohesive and calm and stuff. I think like the re-traumatization piece I think is a big element that I don't know if people are experiencing to the point where they are aware of it. Like you're saying, like I discovered this little girl that was being activated and showing up more when this kind of dynamic is happening. I honestly, like, I think it's just hard. I think it's hard. I think family therapy is like one thing that can help, play therapy with the kids. There's also like their perspective of it too. I can imagine around being the age that they are, the parental figures in their life, and maybe either getting influenced by the other, maybe their mom and like what she's going through, or maybe just like trying to figure out like how they're supposed to be while they're the age that they are. But I guess I'm also more concerned about your parts, right? Because your parts are feeling all of this, and to the point where you're like, all I want you to do is just get along. So family therapy is one aspect of it too. But I guess like, bringing in this aspect of inner child work and that shadow work of like being compassionate and curious about her, and bringing in witnessing her and hearing her stories. So I don't know how much of like individual therapy and community therapy and, all those things that you're doing. I'm sure you're doing a lot of that, but, bringing that in a little bit more to increase some of that curious compassion for her. I also wonder about, his involvement too, your husband, and seeing like, the emotional piece is something that your parts are wanting more. And if it's not quite there, what kind of strategies or conversations can we have to increase some of that for you? Um, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm thinking about, but I mean, I'd love to like hear a little bit about any of those things that are landing. I don't want to assume, but yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, now all that. So you spoke to all that, and I went. Yeah, I experienced all
Mhm.
that. That's when.
Mhm.
So the jealousy was evidence of something that I desired, right?
Desire. Yeah.
hmm And yeah, like I was saying, you keep mentioning inner child and getting curious. The word is curious, and then that safety. That
Yeah.
word.
Compassion and chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Curiosity.
So I don't know. I don't know what it was. One day I know what it was. And again, I say things that make me sound shitty, but they're real thoughts
Hey,
that
they're
people
real. Yeah.
have and they're
Uh-huh.
not willing to admit to.
Yeah.
But I know what it was. When my husband and I started dating, the agreement what I broke up with him in the beginning. We were together for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. I broke up with
Mhm.
him because I had a realistic conversation. I'm almost 30. I want more kids. You've got three. Is that a possibility? And he said no. And so I was like, okay, bye. We wound up back together. He fell in love with me, gave me a baby, obviously. But before that, it was this spiritual warfare for me.
Oh,
What,
yeah.
like, I felt like I was settling, but I also
Mm.
didn't want him to feel like he was settling. Like, there should never, like, this should be something that we both want to do. It shouldn't be an accident, none of that. And, um, and all of a sudden it hit me one day, some resentment that I'd had built up. And I
Mhm.
was like, why? Why do I feel that way? Other than I feel like that I'm not getting what I deserve. And this is the part that sounds shitty. His his ex-wife is what I would consider, she is like a trophy, okay? She's
Mhm.
got it going on. She's beautiful. She is just well known in the community, big heart. I have nothing ill to say.
Mhm.
And so but I can't help but compare yourself to that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But it hit me that his youngest would oh, his youngest would only ever see us together. And that just hit different for me. I was like, because I would, again, it was this sense of jealousy. He's not gonna give me a baby, but they have a baby and I have to watch them raise this baby together. And it was
Mm.
really hard. And then there was this overwhelming sense of like acceptance one day. And I said, yeah, but when he sees his dad with somebody, it's you. So you'd still get to be his mom in a sense. Like,
Mm.
I'm never going to claim that title, but I get to nurture him and,
Mhm.
help raise him. And so that started to really shift. And that's when I got real curious about like, why are you so jealous? And
Mhm.
it went back to that inner child. And I did all this. My biggest
Mhm.
breakthrough was I had this meditation, this deep meditation at a retreat that I facilitated. And my co host, she ran this meditation. I still got massive pages of shit that I wrote. And that was for the first time ever that I didn't wake up for about the next 6 to 8 months with that feeling in the morning, the
Wow.
vomiting, and it was through that inner child I didn't realize it was going to be an inner child meditation, but I swear to God, I got to go back and read this. This has been sitting around for a few days
Yeah.
telling me to open it, and I think it's time.
Mhm.
But the meditation was intense.
Mhm.
I was floating down a river on my
Mm.
back as child Jacqueline. And to
Mm.
my right, I saw my ancestors, Native Americans,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they were just like seeing me off. And I was floating on this raft on my back and naked. So,
Mm.
so innocent and just so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I saw her and she was just like, "You can go. It's fine. We're safe now." And it was almost, and then she took me up to this cloud and she told me like that she was happy to go there. She felt free finally. Um, and life just got so much better after that. But to go back to what you're saying, um, I don't want to make this about me. I want it to go back to the audience because I'm doing the work and you're right on point that like this is the path I took. And it was so cool how it unfolded. I couldn't have forced it by any means. But for the person listening, it goes back to what you said. Like, do they even know are they even problem aware that that's going on? Might
Mhm.
not be.
Mhm.
Um, so that plug-in point is definitely the curiosity and curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm like too curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once I had the realization, I was like, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we self-projecting
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
this innocent child who is literally depending on you to make him a good human? Like,
Mm.
it was a wake-up call
Yeah.
for sure. But you see it, and I see it in my husband. He doesn't even realize it. He's passive aggressive as fuck with my daughter. There
Yeah.
is this whole stepchild syndrome thing that happens. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
why do we do that? Unless
Mm.
we're unless there's something we haven't resolved within ourselves, unless there's some sense of jealousy, like what is that? Can
Mhm.
we speak on that?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Awareness.
yeah, it could be a combination of that too, right?
Yeah,
Like
you
when I
think?
think, yeah, when I think about this idea of shadow work, and I'm using it as like it's a modern terminology, but it's not a modern thing, right? Like, like we've got, yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about that. It's ancient, but it's understanding like, yeah, sometimes I'm going to be looking in the mirror towards my triggers or the things that are activating to me, like meaning maybe I see myself in this situation and that's causing some of this, judgmental feelings or blame or shame or this like criticism or whatever it may be, rejection. So a lot of the times it is like, okay, let's look in ourselves. Like what is like my favorite question to ask, like this realm of curiosity is what's familiar about this situation? Like, is it, what's familiar about this that's activating me? Where do I feel it in my body? I think it's really interesting, like when we feel things in our throat, it's like I wasn't able to say something or I want to say something and I can't, or fear of like being judged, or um, I was crying out and I wanted to say something and I wasn't heard or I'm not seen. It's the heart space. It's like all that love, but it's all pain, And so it's like, what is familiar about this? And I always have clients ask, like, in any situation that's coming up, like, so this happened at work or this happened when so and so said this. Well, it's familiar about that, and we process it and we go down this curious rabbit hole of compassionate, curiosity and just asking, like, what are those unexpressed wounds, unexpressed parts of ourselves that couldn't quite feel like it could be out in the open, or it's exiled away in this castle so far away and then something triggered it, and protectors within our body is like, oh no, you're getting close, let's cover it up and blame this person, or like we're gonna show up in this like judgment, it's about them, it's not about us, but really sometimes it's kind of like the other way around too, and that's okay, like, and that's okay, and like I said, I relate to your story so much. I really do. So I'm not saying anything that I mean, again, I don't know. It's obviously not the same. We're two different people, but when it comes to like this caretaker role, I think people don't even talk about that too much. Because then you're thinking about, okay, how does my caretaker role growing up with being a child of six, like the oldest, and then now having this blended family, and then seeing these littles, and then this interaction from this like father wound, like interaction from dad to the little. So going back to those unexpressed parts of us with compassion. So for me, I do so much for my inner children. And I say children because there's this rebellious teen, there's 5-year-old, there's 3-year-old. I don't even have a lot of memory about 5-year-old, but I know lots of things happened because it's like I feel it in my body. And so I do things for her, my preteen, the one going into middle school. So I think of like this shadow work as being playful and nurturing and compassionate. And I also try to be as objective as much as possible because I also relate to like the jealousy. I relate, like, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of my jealous part is growing up, seeing other children have these like really loving homes, especially when the dads are there and they're present and they like teach them new soccer skills or volleyball or like, they're like, they can like hug them. What? And, it's just like, it's going to be triggering. It's going to be activating. But what helps me is that because of the, like you said, that awareness and that curiosity, it's so important. I'm aware that it's not necessarily just me that's feeling that. I'm curious to the level of there are those inner children that are locked away in that castle because of these protectors kind of deflecting on, I don't know what it is. I just don't like hanging out with that girl, because, she has it all together. She thinks she's great. She thinks she's got it all together, whatever. She thinks she's hot shit. But, I know that's my inner child. Like, I want that. I wanted that, or, seeing, in my present day, you know, um, seeing things that I know that I want and that I don't have yet, or that whatever it may be, like understanding, like, okay, compassionate curiosity about it. Oh, what is it? What is it about that? I'm literally talking to her. I'm talking to her. I'm talking to the protector parts, tell me, like, don't be suppressed anymore. Don't be, I'm taking care of you now, right? Like, I'm parenting you now. I want to hear about your dreams, your hopes, what made you sad, what is reminding you of this pain. I'm here to hold you. And I'm also there to kind of instill boundaries for her too. Like, you aren't going to be hanging out with this person anymore because they harmed you. Like, they talked about you, or they like said this really awful comment, or they don't care about your feelings in this way, or whatever it was, or even a vibe check. Like, okay, we don't have to suffer through that, because maybe when we were kids we had to go through things and we didn't quite have agency of who we're going to be around, who was taking care of us, the friends. We didn't really know like what's healthy, uplifting relationships. We weren't taught it. I'll speak for myself. I wasn't taught it, right? I was not taught that. So I'm doing a lot of this reparenting now through a curious, compassionate lens. So to kind of go back to what you're saying, absolutely. Like, yes, resentment can build up, and jealousy, and feeling inadequate, or not, like maybe helpless, or whatever it may be, abandoned, and just being curious about that and supporting the parts of you helps separate from what's happening in the current world versus what's happened to my, or our inner children, and working with them before we address what's happening in our current life so that they don't blend and, through the lens of like projection, or like, as best as possible. But it's going to happen. We're human and we have complex histories and lives, right? So, yeah.
Oh, that was all so good. You said that you talked to your children,
Yeah.
and again, no coincidences here. It's so funny that you say that after I just began doing that for myself.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So those little God winks,
Yes. Yes.
I was on
So
the
powerful.
toilet. They really are. But
Yeah.
I was on the toilet the other morning because for me it's
Yeah.
GI. It's GI. It's
Yes.
right. It's
Good. Yep.
yeah, GI and heart related for me. So you were talking about the heart. That yeah, it makes sense. I've never felt safe. Like
Mm.
it all makes sense, and the abandonment, the rejection, all the things. And then you were talking about how I mean, let's just be frank. It pisses you off to see like
Yeah.
other kids have what you don't have. So like you talking about, oh, they get to hug their dad. Like what the fuck?
Yeah. Yes.
The way you said it, like I see
Yeah.
little Ruth, and yeah, like, and
Mm-hmm.
we carry those things into adulthood, and man, it's just powerful. But
Yeah.
what I take away from all of it is the compassion, the compassionate curiosity. I really want to relay to my audience that it changes everything. Looking at everything from a lens of curiosity, because we're so quick to judge ourselves, man. And it's just like, why? Why am I feeling that way? And I love how
Mhm.
you said, what's familiar? I've never stopped to think about that. Like, what about this is familiar? And I notice you don't say trigger a lot, you say activate.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I like that.
I don't know where that came from. I'm not really sure, but I do like activate or
It's way better.
alarm a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, why am I on alert?
Yeah.
Uh Man, I don't even just this has been awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. But what's coming through to me is like with all of this, it's yeah, it's a spiritual journey, but
Mhm.
spirituality is so unique to the person.
Mhm.
It just feels like with all of this, if listeners only take something away from me, and I want to hear what they should take away from you next,
Mhm.
what would be to get curious about your identity. You
Yeah.
know, that was what really onset my whole personal development journey. And I got super curious about my brain. That was it. I was like, my brain is holding me back. Like, what the fuck is going on? And so I finally figured out, like, I'm just gonna get real curious about this. And I started doing research, reading books, discovered neuroscience, neuroplasticity,
Mhm.
rewiring of the brain.
Yeah. That's
It,
post-traumatic growth, by the
uh,
way, that
oh,
neuroplasticity. Yeah, it's part of it. Mhm.
Ah, and I just got super curious, why the fuck am I like this?
Mhm.
And it goes back to that inner child thing. I asked her, I was like, "Who do you want to be?" Nobody ever stopped to ask you that. Like, who would you be? I'd put myself in this situation where I was like, I put myself in this deep meditation. I was like, let's just pretend you were born in the wild, no electronics. Maybe we were raised by wolves. I don't know. But who would you be? And it was so different than who I was being. And that was radical acceptance. But
Mhm.
also then I had to take radical ownership, radical responsibility, and then figure out how to unbecome all of that.
Mm.
And that's the journey. But man, inner child, I
Mm.
hope somebody listens to this and is like, I hope this is their plug-in point, because that's all you need. Would you agree with that? Is once you're aware, it really feels like the plug-in point, and then the rest is like just how curious you get and how consistent with that curiosity you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it just I think that's why they call it, you fall into the rabbit hole. Like you can't get enough of it. Once you start seeing
Yeah.
results and you see a change in yourself. And for me, what was the most beautiful thing was when people started saying, "What are you doing differently? Like, what's going on? You're different." And I was like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
is it working?"
It's work. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And sometimes we can't see it, but other people
mhm.
can see the transformation, all that hard work that we're putting in. Mhm.
It's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
For everyone I want to hear, I call it like, let's part with what is on your heart and
Yeah.
one final message for everybody. Because again, this show's all over the place, as you see.
Yeah. That's
And
good. I love
we,
it.
we bounce around, but
Yeah.
that's what it means to talk shit. Like we're just talking
Yeah.
about kinds of shit, whatever happens.
Yeah.
But like what are your final words of wisdom? What's on your heart? And then if you'll close it out with, I didn't even introduce you and your last name. I just said Ruth. I just assumed everybody knew who you were. And then, but if you'll just, tell them where to find you,
Yeah.
how to work with you if you're accepting clients or any events, anything, just all the Ruth things. And then your last wisdom or your last nugget of wisdom for everybody
Yeah.
listening.
It's so interesting you say wisdom because that's kind of part of what I wanted to bring
Ooh,
up.
okay.
Because you said, like plugging into that. And what comes up for me is that we do have every single one of us, we have that internal, innate, ancestral, spiritual, higher self wisdom. I'm using parts language as well because I use it heavily in work with clients and in my own journey too. But we're born with it. We have access to it. Sometimes we feel like we have more access. Sometimes we don't feel like we have any access to it. But it's there. It's just kind of sometimes gets clouded by, a lot of the protector mechanisms that we have, the caretaker, the perfectionist, the task maker, the inner critic or whatnot. But compassionate curiosity helps uncover and uncloud that higher self, that deep inner wisdom that we all have. And that takes time and patience, confronting all the layers with non-judgmental curiosity, right? Like I cannot say that enough. I think you're right. Like that is a catalyst to your journeys, right? To our journeys. But that we all have that power to do that healing. Again, post-traumatic growth, we have that innate ability to do it. We're all wired to do that. We are complex human creatures, but and with that being said, there's so much about what we could do that I don't feel like people, hear enough about. And healing is one part of it, but like just the amount of strength that we have and resilience that we can, developing new skills. And a lot of it, it's like healing our lineage. The more we're doing now, we're healing our past lineage, the mother wounds, the father wounds, ancestral wounds, and our future as well. And so, I think that that's like the big takeaway for me is that we're all wired to have that internal wisdom. We're all wired to have that strength that can promote healing, and anyone has access to it. It just takes patience and all that passion and curiosity. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that. But I love what you're saying too about the meditations, therapy, reading books. Yes, it is a lot, but sometimes it's the small little sprinkles of slowing down, resting, giving ourselves opportunity, being community, safety for ourselves, providing safety, whether it's boundaries or it's, you know, safety in the body through breath work or through, other meditations, talking to our parts, talking to our inner children.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that I'll leave it at that, for some of the
Beautiful.
nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Because I tell everybody like it compounds. Just get curious about something, one thing each day. And can we just say like no shame? I know we say judgment.
Yeah.
Like there's no shame. There's no shame. We judge ourselves entirely too much for things
Yeah.
that we just shouldn't. So with that, that was a beautiful place to close. How can they find you?
Yeah. So, full name, Ruth Tessema. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Talk with Ruth. Website is Rising Self Wellness, and that's where you can find my info around psychotherapy services, holistic wellness workshops, sound bath, breath work. Um, obviously I'm in Oregon, so I see Oregon clients. I'm licensed in Oregon. However, some of the workshops I'm really hoping within the next year to start expanding to virtual wellness workshops. And so, like I said earlier, like I have workshops around parts work, somatic parts work, yeah, inner child healing, boundaries, vagus nerve reset, and then breath work and sound baths, obviously, as well. So hopefully, I can kind of bring in community outside of Oregon, but that's in the works. But yeah, Rising Self Wellness, Talk with Ruth on Instagram.
I swiped.
Oh, you swiped. Okay, that's
I swiped and I couldn't find you.
Oh no. I've done that
Anyway,
before.
I muted myself because I live by an airport and I was like, I don't want to
Oh,
interrupt her. And then
no.
anyway,
All
fail.
good. It's all good.
Fail. Well, everybody go find Miss Ruth, and I can't wait for more of the virtual stuff. You should do a retreat at some point too. Just gonna throw that
Yeah,
out there.
totally. Totally.
But oh, this was awesome. I'm so glad we finally got to do it. I forgot to tell you, I love all the plants and books in the background.
Oh, thank you.
Such a vibe, such a vibe. Um, and I guess we'll just stay connected through Instagram.
Totally.
And thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
I can't thank you enough for your time, for your energy, for your wisdom, and just being the incredible human that you are. Okay.
oh, that's really sweet. Thank you. I appreciate you too. This was lovely. You got me fired up. 8 a.m. I love it.
Good, 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 good. All right. Go out
Love
there
you.
and take on the day. And
Uh,
I will talk with you soon.
Talk soon.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.